Okay, so just gotta hit record, and is it recording? Yep, still going. Yeah. You know, when you haven't done this for a couple of months, you kind of get out of practice and you forget what you're doing. How's it going? Happy Halloween, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and by the time you see this, probably Happy New Year's as well. It's been a little bit. I don't know if you can tell, but I have a little bit of a different setup. I'm actually using my lavalier mic, so hopefully the audio on this is nice and crisp and clean. Also, it might look a little different. I have a different setup for my office, and I now have a desk that's open to shoot at different heights and angles and everything. So I'm still using the Sony a7 IV, but I'm now using the 35 millimeter, what is this? Oh, Sigma. Yeah, wow. It's the 35 millimeter Sigma 1.4. This lens has become my absolute favorite lens throughout the entire year. That segues me into what I'd like to talk about for the last video of 2022, the photography of 2022 for me. I made a really short video that just kind of highlighted the photos from Chicago, and I've had a couple events or sessions, photography, walks, whatever you want to call them, since October. I've gone out to another autocross. I actually got linked up with somebody that does rallycross out at Dirtfish in Snoqualmie. And I went out and I shot a session for the rallycross. That's been really fun. Just recently, actually yesterday, I went out with two of my best friends and we went down to Seattle and Bellevue in the middle of the night, per usual for me, and we did some street photography. Also, unfortunately, right around the beginning of December, I got really sick. It put me down for almost a week and a half, and so there was some struggles there towards the end of the year that didn't really think that I would be experiencing. I don't think anybody can really plan for when they're going to get sick or if they're going to get sick. Yeah, luckily made it through that just fine, and I was able to get out and continue my photography. I wanted to just kind of go over a recap of 2022 because I watch a lot of different YouTubers. This is going to be a pretty commonplace, but it'll be about me. I wanted to talk about not just the photography, but also kind of what I've learned in photography throughout 2022. There has been a lot that I learned. The biggest thing for me is actually starting my website, building my website, which I'm still in the process of modulating it and making it my own. I do use Squarespace. This is not sponsored, believe me. I pay for everything. I guess I'll start there. So I started the website not too long ago. It kind of just sat stagnant for a little bit because I was off doing all kinds of things. I was still learning photography, and I was meeting new friends. I was going and shooting new events and new styles of photography. And the website, unfortunately, kind of got put on the back burner. It wasn't up until, I believe, about 2 months ago that I really started diving into how to create my website and put it together. And Squarespace, I'm sure if you watch other YouTubers, you've heard their spiel, their adverts for Squarespace. It is it's a very plug and play website builder. There were a couple of things that I did find that were a little bit of an issue to try and get through. One of the biggest issues that I don't care too much about with Squarespace is I couldn't call anybody. Everything's done either through email or messages, or it's all done online. They say that that's, you know, the best way to help because you're online and you're building a website. For somebody like me, it's easier to listen to somebody while I'm on the computer physically doing what it is they're telling me to do. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. I would much rather prefer there be an actual voice talking to me and instructing me while I do it, as opposed to trying to read through messages and emails to then try and go and do everything. So it probably has a lot to do with the fact that I have ADD. So my brain kind of has that disconnect of like, oh, I read this, then I have to remember, and then I have to move on. Oh, and then I have to go do it. Eventually, even with the small struggles, I still got through it. I still have, or I was able to build the website and showcase what I wanted to showcase. There's galleries in there. I kind of started a blog in there as well. And then I also have a store, which I will be kind of posting a couple photos here and there. And the store will continue to evolve. Actually, the point where I am able to sell prints. Right now, it's just selling digital backgrounds for your phone or your computer, or just digital photos. So with that all being said and done and talked about, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video, which is the photography. So I have my phone out because I wanted to go through Lightroom and just browse through the photo sessions of this year. January 3rd, 2022, I had just gotten my A7 IV. I believe I had just purchased my 85mm as well. It had snowed slightly before, I believe it was snowed slightly before the end of the year, right around Christmas time. And so there was a bridge that's in Everett that I wanted to go and photograph and see what I could capture. January 3rd, I headed out to Everett, and the photos that you're seeing on the screen are of that very first photography session with the A7 IV for 2022. And a lot of these photos were some of my favorite photos, and still to this day are my favorite photos. In fact, this one that you're seeing on the screen now, I actually have right back there. Whoop. There you go. I have right back there. I had it printed and I have it hanging up on my wall. So that goes to show just how much I actually enjoyed that photography session. Moving into about middle of January, I went out with my friend Brandon, and we had gone down to downtown Monroe, downtown Snohomish, and was still getting used to my camera, but I got a couple of photos while we were out of this whole session. My favorite one was probably the one of John waiting at the crosswalk with his back to me. and you can just barely see the old style buildings that are in the background. And of course, it's in black and white, a style that I would slowly but surely encompass more and more and make my own style for sure. That same night, I actually ended up going out with my friends Chelsea and Chrissy. We hit up Mukilteo and walked around, got shots of the lighthouse and the train depot, train station, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, we just kind of walked around and looked for stuff, and that was really fun. That whole night, between going out with my friend Brandon and my friend John, and then later on going out with two other friends and being able to shoot photography, just capturing whatever I could. It really was a lot of fun. A couple of days later, I got together with my grandparents, and this was the day that I captured what is my all-time favorite photo. And it's actually of my grandpa. And we were at the park in Everett. He had shot this photo that I'll put up on screen right now. He had just brought the camera down from his eye, and he had this great big smile on his face, and he was holding my camera. That was the A7 III. I still had the A7 III at that time. And the moment literally went by so fast because he continued to turn and then set my camera down, the A7 III, after taking that photo. So it was a split-second reaction of bringing my camera, the A7 IV, and the lens up and snapping the photo as quickly as I could, and then the moment was gone. And like I said, this photo is still my absolute favorite photo out of the thousands of photos that I've taken so far in 2022. After visiting with them, I went back to another park that was down in Mukilteo, and I ended up capturing a couple more photos and meeting a new friend. That was a good day. There was a lot of really warm feelings and a lot of joy to that day. So then we move into February. February 11th was the first car meet that I went out with my friend, who was a complete stranger at the time, but my now friend, Alex. And her and I had gone out to this car meet, and it was the first real experience in automotive photography that I had. Looking back on a lot of these photos, there's still a lot that I really do enjoy and I really do love. But also looking back on these photos, there's a lot that I was really unexperienced when it came to shooting automotive photography. So from the February 11th one, I went back out February 18th and went to another car meet. Yeah, that's kind of where my automotive photography journey really started. Was that first February 11th car meet. As soon as I met Alex, it really did just jumpstart a lot of things, not just in photography, but in connections to other things. Dream Builders Car Show being one of them, and actually working with Blue Star Auto Salon for a little bit there as well. So the photos that you're seeing up on the screen now are actually from March. and this was it was a night photography trip down to Seattle, again with my friend Alex. And I had just purchased the Sigma 150 to 600, I think it was a sport lens. And I loved that lens. It was absolutely amazing. I did end up trading it in for 70 to 200. The only reason for that was just because I was finding that I wasn't really reaching out past about 250, 300 millimeters anyways. So there was another additional 300 millimeters that I wasn't utilizing. And that lens was god awful heavy. If there was one downside to it, the weight was the one downside. These photos that are up are from Seattle, down by Park Place Market and the Seattle Space Needle. That was a really fun trip too, for multiple different reasons. One, because I got to go out and shoot night photography, street photography with my friend Alex, but also because I had just got my 150 to 600, like I'd said, and for whatever reason, I had the brilliant idea to take it out at night and try and shoot street photography with it. I don't know. I apparently am very well known for doing random, weird, strange things when it comes to photography. But hey, that makes me the photographer that I am. It was still an extremely, extremely fun night. Middle of March, I went out and I actually was sitting in my living room when a sunbeam had burst through the window. It just shone this really interesting color because of the time of year and the cloud patterns, and there was all kinds of things. And so I ran to my office, picked up my backpack, and I drove the speed limit. I totally drove the speed limit to a spot that I knew I wanted to try and capture the Cascade Range Mountains, specifically Mount Pilchuck, which is probably on the screen now, and and the mountains that are surrounding on both sides. The cloud patterns, the colors, everything that I was seeing, I still don't honestly think that I captured photos that did justice to what nature was showing me. I did try my best, but it was just absolutely beautiful. And I'm hoping that I get another chance to shoot something like that this next year. Rolling around into April, I continued my automotive photography, going to another car meet. I think that was actually the last car meet that I went to before going to Dream Builders car show. As soon as I shot the Dream Builders car show, pretty much my automotive photography journey completely changed. Dream Builders, it really was life-changing. But that car show that was in April was the last, the car meet in April was the last one that I've been to. I'm not really sure why, but I haven't been to another car meet since. So April 9th, my wife and I ended up taking a trip out to Lopez Island. And because both of our birthdays are in April, it was a way to celebrate and get away. And Lopez Island isn't really that far from where we live. And so it was a nice little small trip that didn't require, hopping on a plane or anything like that. I had the most fun shooting nature a lot of other things as well during that little trip. I got some food photography in there. I did get some nature, some landscapes, and stuff like that. But there's birds, there's a rabbit, there's one of my favorite pictures from this session is actually getting onto the ferry. That one I was driving, I had my camera up on the dash, and as I was loading onto the ferry, I literally just turned my camera on and just hit the shutter. So whatever my settings were, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to adjust anything. I kind of just hoped that they were going to work, or at least they were going to work enough to where I could manipulate them in Lightroom and make them work. And it turned out. Like I said, it's my favorite photo from that entire trip, other than the photo of my wife. And I think that the photo of my wife is probably my favorite photo of my wife that I've ever taken. She's not really into having photos taken of her, and so to capture something that both of us absolutely love, that meant a lot to me. So we're moving into the middle of April now, and these photos that are up on the screen are from Easter at my grandmother's house. The reason I really like these photos was because I was finding that I was starting to play with color. Something that I don't know how to explain it. I wasn't really scared to play with color, but because I am partially colorblind, there was a little bit of fear when it came to shooting color photography and playing around with it, mostly because I didn't want skin tones to look awkward, or I guess be, questioned why something was one color that I thought was what the color was supposed to be, but somebody else saw it in a completely different color and it wasn't supposed to be that color. But I let go a little bit, and it was the first time that I really enjoyed playing with color, seeing what I could do, the brightness of it, the vividry of it. Vividry? Is that even a word? I think so. I don't know. The vividness? Maybe that's the word. Playing around and having a bunch of fun when it came to color. All right, so I have to pause here because I'm at 2% battery life, and yeah, got to change that out real quick. You won't even notice, so I'll be right back. Go. See, did you even miss me? Didn't think so. So let's get back into the photos here. So the photos that you're seeing are actually taken between April 23rd all the way until April 30th. If you've watched any of my early videos, then you might recognize quite a few of them, especially the ones that were done down at the Mukilteo Ferry Landing, and also the one at, what is that, Wallace Falls? I think it is Wallace Falls. Yes. The reason that the Wallace Falls photos mean a lot to me is because that was actually a hike that I took up to the falls, the very top of the falls, with my dad and with my best friend Brandon. I also announced that I was transitioning from the Brewlog YouTube channel to Grimlock Media, and it was the first time that I had also really announced that I was going to be focusing on making photography into as much of a full-time gig as I possibly could. For only shooting photography for a year, I think I've done pretty damn good. And the photos up at Wallace Falls are some of my favorites from the years. I think probably just because there was so much landscape and just there was so much beauty on that entire hike all the way up. I got some great shots of my dad. I was able to get some great shots of Brandon. One of my favorite black and white photos of nature was actually at the top of the falls, and that's the photo of the trees on the top end, and there's just massive amounts of trees, almost to the point where it's hard to decipher where a tree starts and ends. And then at the bottom half of the photo, you have all of the root systems that the earth has kind of eroded away, and you can see all those roots. And it just makes for an awesome, awesome photo. Now, May I kicked off with a Mother's Day photography session, and I wanted to go out and see how many different kinds of flowers I could shoot, and just get the beauty of nature and kind of get out there and experience a different style of photography that at the time I hadn't really experienced much at all, which is floral photography. And I started out at Jennings Park here in Marysville, and slowly made my way to Everett. And I was going to try and go from Marysville to Everett, and then from Everett I was going to try my best to get down to Bellevue Botanical Garden, and if I had time, even hit up the Seattle Botanical Garden. Didn't make it to Bellevue or Seattle. And the reason for that was because as soon as I left the house to go even try and shoot Jennings Park's floral garden, it was pouring down rain. Yeah, I was absolutely saturated. I still had enough excitement and adventure and I guess drive in me to go to the Everett, but I believe it was Evergreen Arboretum and Gardens or something like that. I'm really glad that I did, because the photos that came out of that arboretum and garden were spectacular. The two of my favorite photos that I had were actually, the first one was the pathway that was completely surrounded by bushes and flowers and everything. It almost looked like you couldn't even make it down the pathway without having to crawl past these. I'm not really sure why, but I really did like that photo. And the second one was the dahlia that I found, and I had placed it in between the gate that was, if you opened up the gate, you went to another section of the gardens. The photo of that dahlia, just with how bright and vivid the center of that dahlia was, and then you have the really dark, almost moody tones to the flower and the gate and the background and everything. Chef's kiss, beautiful. That was the Mother's Day episode, and that was also the Mother's Day session. Shortly after that, I went out on the 14th. I got to meet one of my YouTube friends for the first time, Michael Sladek. And we walked around downtown Bellevue. It was the first photo walk that I'd ever been on. It was the first time that I'd ever met Michael. I had the most fun, I think, that I had ever had. And talking with Michael, who is he's a photography teacher. and picking his brain on not so much the fundamentals of photography, but how to get yourself to view things in different ways. Seeing like a photographer, seeing something that would make a appealing photo that most people would just pass. In talking with him and going on this photo walk, I really do think that the photos that came from this photo walk really represent well what Michael was talking about in seeing things in different ways, different perspectives, and opening your mind, opening your eye to something that not everybody might see, and they might just pass. So also from that photo walk, it was the first time that I had kind of put myself out there to multiple people in asking if I could take their photo. And surprisingly, I had a lot of people that were more than welcome to me taking their photo. And the end of May, there are a lot of photos where I was still trying to do YouTube videos, exploring different places and doing micro street photography. What I mean by micro street photography is only spending about a half an hour shooting photography, and most times even less than that, because I was going out on my lunch break to shoot photography. And so the first couple of photos that are up on the screen are actually of the Mukilteo Beach, once again down in Mukilteo. And the second set of photos that are up are actually of I believe it's a nature reserve that's in Everett, not too far from where I work. So now we roll into June, and June was kicked off with another photo walk held by another YouTuber, one that I didn't really know personally, not nearly as much as I got to know Michael, and that YouTuber was Professor Hines. The whole event was put on by Glazer's Camera in downtown Seattle. Even though I've lived in Washington my entire life, I haven't gone down to Seattle a whole heck of a lot. I'm not a huge city boy. If I'm being honest, I'm more of an outskirts country kind of boy. And so it was fun to get into the city and talk with somebody. And that's actually where I met another friend of mine, Brian, was out on that photo walk. And one of the reasons that photo walk was really fun was because it was an area, an environment that I'm not well accustomed to being in. My mind and my eye was looking at everything because of the fact that I'd never seen it before, really. And Seattle is so diverse, probably like most big cities are. I came away from that Seattle photo walk with a lot of just amazing photos and a really, really fun experience. Another reason that this photo walk stuck out to me was because it was the first time that I used a prime lens the entire session. I was using I can't remember if it's a 20 or a 24 millimeter from Zeiss. It was a Zeiss, I think it was a Zeiss Batis lens, 24 millimeter. Yeah, that perspective, I hadn't really shot solely in a prime lens for any session. I change out my lenses constantly while I'm out on photo sessions, or I'm using a zoom lens, and so I may use my 24 to 70, I very well may use my 17 to 28, 70 to 200. Being able to adjust with a zoom lens is it's great. But I enjoyed using a prime lens, and I was a little leery of using a 24 millimeter because I had asked the Zeiss representative if they had a 35 or even close to a 35 millimeter, because I was looking for a 35 millimeter lens, which I ended up getting from Sigma. But all they had at the time to loan out was that 20 or 24 millimeter lens. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess that'll have to do. Seeing the images through that 24 millimeter lens and then coming home and editing those images, it's not a focal length that I normally will shoot on. It's not a focal length that I was accustomed to shooting in, but I really did love the look of that lens. And who knows, I might go pick one up one day. Aside from the lenses, that trip was great. To meet Brian, to meet Professor Hines, and to meet all the people that were there to shoot photography, learn about photography, and talk about photography. It was great. It was an absolutely fun experience, like I said. So that photo walk with Professor Hines was the beginning of the month. And in the middle of the month was the biggest event that I've ever been to as a photographer. The most stressful, the most fun, and the most life-changing, I guess. And that's Dream Builders Car Show. It was held on June 19th, 2022. If you haven't seen the photos yet, I'll post up a couple of them as I'm talking. There are literal thousands of photos just from this one event. Show cars, race cars, autocross event, burnout competition, loudest pipes competition, the crowd as they're enjoying the car show. The show is put on to raise money for Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. The man who started it, Steve Meyer, he was so proud this year. It was the first year that they made over $100,000 for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I was extremely proud to be asked to be a part of the Dream Builders Car Show. From that point on, I started shooting autocross as opposed to going out to car meets. So all the way through July, nothing but autocross events. And I shot my last autocross event in October. I've met so many amazing drivers and just people in general from those autocross events. I've had so much fun. I honestly, I can't wait to get back out to doing autocross events next year, 2023, because it's a phenomenal opportunity that was given to me to be able to go down on track whenever I wanted and to shoot automotive photography in that style right next to the racetrack, getting up close and personal with the cars as they're trying to beat their best times. So July also, the end of July also marked the 1-year birthday of my grandkids. And yes, I did say grandkids. I have a whole video that I'll post up here and or up here, wherever it's at. That little banner thing should be like right here or like right here. Those photos that are up on screen right now are, I believe, the first photos with my 35 millimeter, taking those first photos with that lens is what made me fall head over heels in love with this lens. The sharpness, the colors, just everything about those photos, just, yeah, it just did something deep down inside my soul to speak to it so well. And of course, because it's my grandkid's first birthday, I got a little emotional. If you want to see how emotional, it was good emotional though. Go check out that video. Yeah, that was how we ended the month. It was a great note to end the month on. So now, August this year was an extremely, and I mean extremely busy month. I not only met the organizers for Going All City, which is a graffiti group, still doing my street photography stuff. So I had gone down to Bellevue again to do night photography, and captured some of my favorite images of the year. And yeah, there was just so much going on in August. But also with Going All City, I was almost immediately asked if I could take a photo of a mural that was unfortunately taken down. I know I've talked about this in other videos, and so I won't really go into it in depth. I went out in the middle of the night and did my best to capture this mural, to capture this image for the event coordinators. Got the image, brought it back home, edited it, and sent it out to the coordinators, and they fell head over heels in love with it. And I did too. It ended up being a really special piece that has a lot of meaning. It was kind of my way of saying thank you back to Going All City and to the artists as well for inviting me into Going All City, Going All City's family. And it's actually hanging up on my wall now. I had it printed out, and later on when we start talking about the other event and the mural that was created during that event, I ended up getting that one printed out as well, and that one will go up on my wall as soon as I get it framed. August and September was really when I started almost getting a flow when it came to my YouTube videos and shooting events, also shooting, night photography and street photography and everything. Going to Bellevue, going to Mukilteo, going to Everett, and just, going around to different places and seeing what I could capture, seeing what I could find, and having a lot of fun. The beginning of September, I went back down to downtown Marysville, which I actually hadn't been back to since the beginning of the year. And went out in the middle of the night, and I have that video up here as well. And yeah, I had a lot of fun getting those photos. And I wanted to see what my progression from those first photos that I took, actually, I'm sorry, at the end of 2021, December of 2021, and then, of course, in September of 2022, and seeing what the difference was, seeing if there were different things that captured my eye, seeing if there was a difference to the things that I was shooting that were the same, but how different the images came out. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. In the continuation of September as well, I also ended up going to downtown Arlington, and again, that was a photo. What is that? Street photography, night street photography, POV. There we go. It was a video that I made, and yeah, that was an absolute blast. I ended September with the second Going All City event that I was talking about earlier. And it was a 3-day event. The first day, Spock, one of the artists, put on a pinstriping class down at Scuttlebutt's Tap Room. And, you know, I was asked, you know, hey, they're going to put on this class, you know, can you come down, can you make it, and shoot some photos, see what you can get. I love these photos. I had so much fun all 3 days getting the shots at the pinstriping class, and then the following 2 days were actually the start of the mural that was on the side of Scuttlebutt's Tap Room. It is on the side of Scuttlebutt's Tap Room. It's still there, thankfully. They also put up, what are they, like temporary walls made out of like plywood for the community to come down and spray paint and learn how to spray paint and just have fun. Like I said, both days were absolutely amazing. Again, I got hundreds, if not probably over 1,000 photos between those 3 days. The last day, at the end of the night, I went out and I spent almost 2 hours getting one photo. And it's panoramic photo, but I wanted to try to take multiple photos and stitch them together into one photo. It's something that I was trying with other murals that were around Everett. Because they're so large, it was harder to try and get everything all in one photo and then crop it down to whatever. So instead of trying that, like I said, I spent some time and I tried to set everything up as best as I possibly could, and I took photo sections of the mural, put them in the Lightroom, stitched them all together, and then I had one panoramic photo to work off of. The mural, the second mural that these artists created on the side of the Scuttlebutt's Tap Room, I ended up titling it the Vicious Return. The first mural, I ended up titling The Lost Samurai. Yeah, like I said, I have the Lost Samurai photo up on the wall, and as soon as I go and have it framed, I'll have The Vicious Return right underneath it. Those photos were really fun and really kind of pushed my creativity to a limit that I did not know that I could go to. So after that event in September, I took a little bit of a break. It was because I was getting prepared to go see my friend in Chicago. And so the next series of photos that should be up on your screen right now are all taken while I was visiting my friend in Chicago. And like I said, I did create a little short video. I think it's like under 2 minutes long. To end October, I went to my last autocross event of the year. There was so much visually that had changed from those first autocross events to the last one that I went out to that it actually surprised me. Mostly because the first event that I had gone to was in June, and then to turn around and have the last one look so drastically different in October, it kind of blew me away. And also in October, the same day as the autocross event, going to my grandparents' house, snapped a couple of shots of my grandfather's Morgan. It's a Morgan 4-4. I can't remember the year, but it's beautiful old car, and he's in the process of selling it. I wanted to make sure that I had some photos to remember it by before it left the garage for the last time. So I ended the year with Rallycross, and a lot of Rallycross at that. That was a whole new experience. Shooting Rallycross as opposed to shooting autocross is two different monsters all in itself. And that's it. That brings us to today, December 30th, 2022. This is obviously the last video of the year, and reflecting back on everything that photography has offered me and given me an experience. I've learned so much, not just the fundamentals of photography, not just using my camera, using different lenses. I've experienced, I don't even know how many different lenses at this point. I think I'm up to like 7 different lenses in the course of a year. Prime lenses, telephoto lenses, or zoom lenses, shooting different scenarios within photography, street photography, night photography, portrait photography, animal photography, landscape, travel, food, car, events, graffiti, everything. I have, if you had asked me at the beginning of the year if I could guess where photography was going to take me, I would not have been able to even remotely tell you. And I'm so glad that it's taken me to as many different places as it has. The biggest thing that I'm appreciative for when it comes to photography is you. Not just the viewers, but the people that I meet along the way. It's not even the photos. The photos are just a conduit to meeting new people for me. Getting to know people, putting a smile on people's face when it comes to asking a complete stranger, could I take your photo? And then showing them the photos afterwards and seeing that smile on their face and just the joy of seeing themselves, it warms my heart. I can't explain to the level, but it does. It warms my heart, and I can't wait to see where 2023 goes in photography, who I meet next, who I continue to talk to and go out, explore. I want to do more photo walks and host more photo walks. I'd love to go down to Seattle and walk around with like-minded photographers and have fun and explore. Continue this journey that I've been on. So thank you. Thank you, photography. Thank you. I hope you have a fantastic New Year's. I hope that 2023 is even better than 2022. And I'll catch you all later. Happy New Year! Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things. Yeah. All right. I'm out.